In this particular video, we'll deal about the chapter circulation, what we will have to refer for the last moment revision in circulation chapter. So circulation consists of blood, plasma and cells. So plasma constitutes of 55% and cell consists of 45%. So different type of cells which are present are RBC, that is erythrocyte, WBC which are leukocytes, and platelets which are thrombocyte. Increase in RBC is known as polycythemia, increase count in WBC is known as leukocytosis, and thrombocytosis for thrombocytes. Then we have to study about structure of the heart. Cells WBC, RBC, which are a classification of cells, are important. WBC is classified into granulocyte and agranulocyte. Agranulocyte consists of lymphocyte and monocytes. Monocytes are known as scavenger cells. Granulocytes are divided into three types, which are neutrophils, basophils and eosinophils. So these are classification of the cells of circulation. Then there is structure of the heart, which is we are going to deal with. It is hollow muscular conical organ. Heart is 12 centimeter in length into 9 centimeter in breadth, 250 to 300 grams in weight. The covering is known as pericardium, which is of two types, fibrous pericardium and serous pericardium. So the inner, which is serous pericardium, is divided into three parts: parietal pericardium, visceral pericardium, and pericardial fluid, which is present between parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium. So the heart wall consists of three layers: epicardium, middle is myocardium, and inner is endocardium. Myocardium is made up of cardiac muscle responsible for heart movements. Outer epicardium is for epithelial cells made up of mesothelium, and inner endocardium is made up of endothelial cells. There are two terminologies we have to remember is ligamentum arteriosum. It connects the pulmonary trunk with systemic aorta. It represents ductus arteriosus of fetus. So if it is patent, it is known as patent ductus arteriosus. There is one partition in the atrioventricular septum, which is known as fossa ovalis, which is remain of foramen ovale in the fetus in the intrauterine life, which helps in passage of blood from left to the right side of the heart. Right atrium or right side of the heart receives deoxygenated blood, and left part of the heart receives oxygenated blood. So atrium and ventricle, right side is divided by tricuspid valve, left side is divided by mitral or bicuspid valve. These are atrioventricular valves. Valves are present in between aorta and pulmonary trunk, which are semilunar valves. These are also three cusp valve. Heart is a rhythmic contraction and relaxation. Contraction is known as systole and relaxation is known as diastoles. Then increase in blood pressure is known as hypertension. Blood pressure is measured by sphygmomanometer. Manometer are the one which measures pressure. So sphygmomanometer are the one which carries measures the instrument measuring blood pressure. Systolic blood pressure is maximum pressure during ventricular contraction, and diastolic is minimum pressure during ventricular relaxation. Hypertension is increase in pulmonary tension. Then there is coronary artery disease, which consists of atherosclerosis or there any block or plug because of any fat deposition in the arterial vessel. Angina pectoris is the mild chest pain which is treated by nitroglycerin tablets. ECG has three waves: P waves, QRS complex, and T waves. P wave is due to atrial depolarization causing atrial contraction. P wave is the indication of ventricular depolarization, and T wave is ventricular repolarization. So T is ventricular repolarization, and it is broad upwards. This is forming the ECG of the heart. Excretion is the next part which we are going to deal with for the last minute brush up. So modes of excretion which are classified into ammonotelism, ureotelism, and uricotelism, which are classified on the basis of the animals which excrete ammonia as the waste product, which excrete urea as the waste product, and uric acid as the waste product. So ammonotelism examples are tadpole larvae of frogs or bony fishes. Ureotelism, the examples are turtles or marine fishes. And then comes the uricotelism, which includes lizards, snakes, and birds. Then comes guanotelism, which excrete guanine as the waste product, which is seen mostly in arachnids, which includes spiders and penguins. Human excretory system includes kidney. These are paired organs, suprarenal glands. Kidney excrete hormones, which is erythropoietin and calcitriol. Blood supplied to the kidney is by renal artery, which is a branch of dorsal aorta. It enters the hilus and supplies to the kidney. Kidney dimensions are 5 cm wide, 10 cm long, and 4 cm thick. It is dark bean shaped color, red. This is the structure of a human excretory system. Then comes the composition. So kidney LS histology, it consists of cortex part and medulla. There are columns of Bertini, which are part of cortex inside medulla. Renal pelvis, hilum, renal pyramids, and collecting ducts, which joins to form Bellini, duct of Bellini. Ureter is the 40 cm long, which connects urinary bladder to lateral angles. Urinary bladder consists of trigone, which is the part formed by openings of ureter, and urethra, which is the triangle inside the base of the urinary bladder, which is pear shaped organ. Nephron is the structural and functional unit of the kidney, which consists of Malpighian tubules or Malpighian body, which is also known as Pygmalion corpus cells, and there is renal tubule. So this is the part of the Bowman's capsule, where it consists of glomerulus, efferent arteriole, efferent arteriole. The changes in pressure leads to ultrafiltration, There are podocytes on the inner wall which helps in ultrafiltration, which is the first process of formation of urine. Then is active reabsorption and tubular secretion. After glomerulus, there is proximal convoluted tubule, descending limb of nephron, ascending limb, and then there is collecting tubule. So these are the parts of the uniferous tubules or nephron. EFF is the effective filtration pressure. GHP is glomerular hydrostatic pressure. So net filtration pressure is equal to glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus OP plus FHP. OP is osmotic blood pressure and FHP is filtration hydrostatic pressure. So osmotic pressure and hydrostatic pressure subtracted by glomerular capillary pressure. So total net filtration pressure comes out to be 10 mm of Hg. Role of kidney: composition of urine is water and urochrome, which is the pigment which provides color to the urine. There is uric acid, creatinine and urea excretion. There are disorders of kidney failure, which is acute kidney failure or injury, and chronic kidney disease. There are kidney stones, which is known as renal calculi. If it is in ureter, it is known as ureterolithiasis. It is in kidney, it is known as renal calculi. If it is the condition of having kidney stone is known as nephrolithiasis. If it is in urinary tract, it is known as urolithiasis. Uremia is rise of level of urea in the blood. Nephritis is also glomerulonephritis, which is also known as Bright's disease. Then there is juxtaglomerular apparatus. JGA cell secretes renin, which helps in water absorption, and aldosterone secretion, which has an antagonist atrial natriuretic factor ANF, which is secreted by atrial wall. Now comes the zoology part of the total botany and zoology. In biology, zoo consists of 52 to 54% of the questions, and botany consists of 48 to 46% of the questions. So zoology is the main part which you have to focus upon. So in this, as we have seen among the past few year question papers, the questions which we are being repeated from the chapters are like reproduction in human beings, reproductive health care. So in reproduction, first of all, you should see upon the different reproductive organs of male as well as female. After this, you have to focus upon gametogenesis. See, reproduction is important in both the part, like botany and zoo, both of them. See, gametogenesis, then comes the fertilization. After fertilization, the embryogenesis is the important part. Blastulation, cleavage and gastrulation you should focus upon. So this is the part of the reproduction or the main area which you have to see upon. And the reproductive care, like different types of sterilization and OCDs like oral contraceptive devices and IUCD, intrauterine contraceptive devices, examples which you have to check upon. Then comes the organism and environment or ecosystem, the pyramids and different examples or different area, arboreal, terrestrial, where the animals live, succession which we have to see in this part. The questions are mostly repeating from the last few years in this part. And then the main focus on the chapter is control and coordination. See, control and coordination is a very vast chapter in which there is neural control and chemical control. In neural control, you have to focus upon the different parts and structures of the CNS, that is brain and spinal cord, and what are the different parts of the brain and what are the names or synonyms of different parts of the brain and spinal cord, the CSF and the meninges, which we have to see here, the reflex action. And then comes the chemical part in which there are various hormones. The part of the pituitary is also an important concept in which you have to study the anatomy, blood supply, physiology of pituitary gland, then the hypothalamus, different hormones secreted by them, and what are the deficiency and increase in content of the hormone causes the diseases in each part. And the last part which you have to focus upon in biology is chromosomal basis of inheritance or genetics. All the ratios in the genetics, various diseases, the neomendelism, incomplete dominance, codominance, sickle cell anemia, Down syndrome, Turner syndrome, which are the main focused field in this part in zoology. So these are the overall trends, questions which will benefit you in appearing biology exam. See, you have to read the textbook, highlight the important parts with a marker or highlighter, which will help you in last minute revision. In last minute you can't read the whole textbook, so you have to highlight the important words, the examples, so that you should be in a position where you can revise the whole biology textbook NCERT in 1 hour before the exam. So in this particular video, I am going to talk about how to score better marks in biology, or more precisely, how to score full marks in biology. See guys, biology is a subject whose weightage in NEET exam is 50% as of total. It's 720 marks, of which 360 is biology. To qualify for medical or dental examination, you need to score 50% marks, that is 360 marks. So this you can easily do by getting maximum marks in biology. So most of the students, you can get full marks in biology if you are through with the textbook, that is your NCERT textbook, and few synopsis which you can do from other textbooks. The synopsis which are given before solving the MCQs, if you read those, your 70% of the portion comes from your NCERT textbook, and many of the examples are given better in state textbook like Maharashtra state textbook. Many of the chapters like morphology and anatomy of the flowering plants, kingdom Animalia, Their examples and the classification and kingdom plante, mostly the 11th standard textbook of Maharashtra State Board, will be very much beneficial for you all if you read the classification and examples. In NCRT, it is given in little haphazard manner. So either of this, the synopsis book or the state book, will benefit you in scoring or remembering the examples better. See, biology is all about remembering. It is the fact which you have to remember. There is nothing called concept in biology. So if you have read about it, then you will know. If you have read about this gene was discovered by Johansson, then you will remember by it. If you haven't read it, then it will be, you will not get it. So you have to read before the night of the examination. You should at least read thrice the part you have already read before. The important point is you should not read any new content 3 days before the examination. Whatever you have done earlier in the year, revise everything thoroughly. You don't have to see or look into the new part. So use a highlighter, mark correctly the important words, important terminologies you want to refer for the last minute, because revising 3 times should be within 2.5 hours. Whole textbook NCRT 1, NCRT 2, and the state or synopsis whichever you are referring, and some important MCQs. For biology, even if you don't solve the MCQs in the last moment, it is pretty cool for you all, but you have to be thorough with your data or the content whichever you are revising. Revising is as good as brushing your teeth twice a day. So revision is very important before the examination. So now we'll talk about our subject, whatever we have to go through in the last minute. So we'll go chapter wise. First, we'll go through living world. These are small chapters, but we don't have to ignore these chapters because many of this content like examples are mostly asked. So you have to remember the name of some common genus and species of, like lion, which is Panthera leo leopard, Panthera pardus tiger, Panthera tigris. To remember what is genus, what is species, system, nature, which is the title publication was given by Linnaeus. These are some important tips and tricks which will benefit you. So whenever you cross this sentence, you have to underline it. And the definition of systematics, which can be come into some MCQs. And the taxonomy, hierarchy, category. Sometimes the Latin name or Latin meaning is asked. So example are important. So whatever genus, species, order, class, phylum, example of each, like the plant family Convolvulaceae, Solana Ca are included in the order Polymonales. So all the order ends with ales. The animals of order Carnivora include families like Felidae and Canidae. And class, the category includes all the orders. For example, primates comprised of monkey, gorilla and gibbons are included under class primates. Then phylum, we have to remember one example, and kingdom. So basic unit is the species and the highest unit is the kingdom, which we have to remember. And some housefly, mango, their scientific name you have to see through. This is the only thing which we have to remember in this living world chapter. And the definition of key is another taxonomic aid used for identification of plants and animal based on similarities. So we'll come to another chapter, biological classification. So in biological classification, you have to go through the 5 kingdoms. Whittaker has given the 5 kingdom classification. Who gave the 3 kingdom classification? The year in which the Whittaker given the 5-year classification, you have to remember. And the difference between the characteristics is important, which most of the students forget. So characteristics of 5 kingdoms are important. You can make a table and remember it. And the examples and different subclasses of kingdoms, like kingdom Monera includes Archaebacteria. Examples of Archaebacteria: Eubacteria. Examples of Eubacteria, these are included in kingdom Monera. And Mycoplasma. Then comes kingdom Protista. In Protista you have to see the further classification like chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids. These are included under Protista. Slime molds and examples of each. These are better given in our NCERT textbook. And protozoa. So you can make this type of flowchart and remember the examples of each. Then comes kingdom Fungi, which includes autotrophic as well as heterotrophic, but most of them are heterotrophic organisms, which includes Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes and Deuteromycetes or Basidiomycetes. And examples of each. So you can make such flowchart. And kingdom Plantae and Animalia have been classified into different chapters itself. Then comes the viruses, viroids and lichens. So who discovered the viroids? The name of the scientists, which are better given in the state textbook. So you have to write the name, remember the name of the scientist who gave the virus. Ivanovsky in 1892. So the name virus means poison fluid was given by Pasteur. DJ Ivanovsky recognized certain microbes which causes organism mosaic disease or tobacco mosaic virus was given by Ivanovsky, and Louis Pasteur called them as poisonous fluid. Beijering demonstrated the extract of infected of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants and are called contagium vivum fluidum. This was called by Beijering. And Stanley showed that virus can be crystallized. So there are name of 4 scientists in virus which you have to remember: Ivanovsky, Louis Pasteur, Beijering and Stanley. Then viroids, you have to remember the name of only one scientist, Dana, in 1971, who discovered infectious agent which are virus like, which cause potato spindle tuber disease, which is important. Potato spindle tuber disease, it was found to be free RNA. And lichens, which may be phycobiont or mycobiont. And lichens are very good pollution indicators. so they do not grow in pollution areas. So these are the things which you have to remember in biological classification chapter. So the next chapter you can go through is kingdom Plantae. So last minute revision, you have to remember the classification of kingdom Plantae, which includes algae, bryophyta, pteridophyta, gymnospermae and angiospermae. And examples of each you have to remember. These two are phanerogamae and these three are cryptogamae. Pteridophytes are the first or only vascular cryptogamae. So vessels were first seen in this, and the type of spores formed by each is also important, and it is mostly asked in recent years. So algae is divided into chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae and rhodophyceae. And examples of each you have to remember. Phaeophyceae is brown algae, chlorophyceae is advanced one which is green algae, and rhodophyceae is found deepest red algae. And then comes the bryophytes. These include mosses and liverworts. So examples of mosses and liverworts are important. Mercantia and Funaria, sphagnum. Then comes the pteridophyta, which includes Selaginella equistum, fern, salvinia. The spores are important and which are further classified into 4 classes pteridophytes like Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Sphenopsida and Pteropsida. So all the Sida comes under pteridophytes, but you have to remember the examples of each of the class division. Then comes the gymnosperm, the giant redwood tree which is sequina, which is the tallest tree species, is mostly asked. So remember this name just now, sequina is the tallest tree species. And these gymnosperm form mycorrhizae with pinus, while cycas form coloroids roots. So you can remember cycas C and coloroids roots are from C, and pinus form mycorrhiza relationship, and cycas is forming coloroid roots which are associated with nitrogen fixation like cyanobacteria. And conifers, they are needle like structures. The male and female microsporangia of gymnosperms are important. Then comes the angiosperm, which is the flowering plant. There can be small size to a large tree from Wolffia, which is the tiny almost microscopy, and eucalyptus, which is large, and it is further classified into monocotyledons and dicot, which is single cot and two cotyledons. So these are important. And then the egg nucleus, the synergids and the antipodal cells, polar nuclei, because double fertilization is seen in angiosperms. So this will further come into the reproduction chapter, the double fertilization. Primary endospermic nucleus, just remember it is triploid, and egg or zygote formed is diploid. And primary endospermic nucleus is the nutritive tissue. Then the life cycle or alternation of generation is important in this chapter. The sporophytic generation, like haplontic generation, haplodiplontic, or diplontic generation. So haplontic generation is seen in algae. Diplontic is seen all seed bearing plants, that is gymnosperm and angiosperm. And haplodiplontic is seen in bryophytes and pteridophytes. There will be some exceptions to these which you have to remember. So this we conclude with our kingdom Plantae chapter. So now we will revise what is important in kingdom Animalia. For the last minute revision, you need to know the basis of classification, the level of organization, open system, tissue level organization, organ level organization, Stilwich, then symmetry, body symmetry. The examples are important in this chapter: asymmetrical, radially symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical, the examples of each. Then diploblastic animal, triploblastic, the number of germ layers. Then coelom, the animals which have cavity, coelomates, pseudocoelomates, acoelomates. The examples of each are important. Then segmentation, metamerism, notochord. The animals which have notochord are chordates, and which does not have are non-chordates. From porifera to echinoderms. Then classification based on level of organization, symmetry, body cavity, and phylum. So there are total, from porifera, there is a mnemonic which you can remember: PCC, Pa, Me. Porifera, Coelenterata or Cnidaria, then Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata. So all these are non-chordates. Then in chordates, it includes all the jaw-bearing animals, Gnatha, Gnathostomata or Agnatha, which we will see further. So the examples of each phylum: Porifera, Coelenterata, the special characteristics or which type of cells are required or which type of cells are important or present in these type of animals, like for digestion and for protection, like stinging cnidocytes is present in Coelenterata. These are some special characteristics. Cnidocytes which are stinging in nature are present in Cnidaria or Coelenterata. The examples of each: coinocytes are collar cells which helps in digestion, is seen in porifera, coinocytes. And then comes Ctenophora, which includes sea walnut and comb jellies. Bioluminescence is seen in Ctenophora. Then comes Platyhelminthes, these are flatworm. And the Taenia and Fasciola, which is liver fluke, are examples. Who can sucker are present in these animals. Then comes Aschelminthes, which are also known as roundworms. So the examples, along with what other name they are known as. So roundworms, they are triploblastic and dioecious. Sexes are separate, males and females are distinguished. So they are dioecious. And the examples: Ascaris, Wuchereria and Encyclostomata. Then comes Annelida, which includes earthworm. They show metamerism or metamerically segmented animals. They have parapodia which help in swimming, and nephridia which help in osmoregulation and excretion. So nephridia is important here. Nereis is an aquatic form which is dioecious, but earthworm and leech are monoecious. So you have to remember the exception in Annelida is earthworm and leech which are monoecious, and Nereis is dioecious. Arthropoda is the next phylum, which is the largest phylum, which is divided into head, thorax, body, and they are chitinous exoskeleton. For excretion, they have Malpighian tubules, and Annelida have green glands for excretion. Then comes the molluscans, which is the second largest phylum. Examples are Pila, Pinctada, octopus, and Dentalium. Then comes the next phylum, which is Echinodermata. Echinodermata all are marine. So you have to remember these all are marine with organ system level of organization, and they have presence of water vascular system which helps in locomotion, capture and transfer of food. The example is Asteria or starfish, Echinus, sea urchins. So next phylum is Hemichordata. The examples of Hemichordata is Balanoglossus or Saccoglossus. They have proboscis, collar and trunk. Then comes the phylum Chordata. You have to remember some distinguishes character between chordates and non-chordates. Chordata is divided into three classes: Urochordata, Cephalochordata, Urochordata also known as tunicates, and Vertebrata. So Protochordata, Urochordata and Cephalochordata are included under Protochordata. So the example of Urochordata is Ascidia and Salpa, Herdmania or Doliolum, and Cephalochordata is Brachiostomata and Amphioxus, which is also known as lanceolate, which are included here. They have needle-like structure. And then comes the phylum Vertebrata. They have vertebral column, kidney for excretion, 2, 3 or 4 chamber hearts. These are the characteristics of vertebrata, which are division into agnatha, which lack jaws, and gnathostomata, which have jaws. So agnatha includes cyclostomata class. Cyclostomata, the examples of which is important, which is petromyzin and myxin. Petromyzin is known as lamprey and myxin is also known as hagfish. Then comes phylum superclass Pisces and Tetrapoda, which have 4 feet. Pisces includes chondric thighs and ostick thighs, cartilaginous fishes and bony fishes. Tetrapoda includes amphibia, reptilia, aves and mammalia. The connecting links between these are also important, like Archaeopteryx, Platypus. So these are things which you have to remember. So there is a good table given in NCERT which will help in classification of salient features of different phyla in kingdom Animalia. Remember the examples in this unit 1. In unit 2, the first chapter is morphology of flowering plants, the structural organization in plants. So morphology, you have to remember the different division like taproot system for roots, more different modifications of root. Then comes the stem, different types of modifications of stem and their examples, leaf, venation, different types of venation and their examples, phyllotaxy. The venations and phyllotaxy are mostly asked, and the root part. Then comes the inflorescence, racemose, cymose inflorescence, the examples of which. Then comes the flower part, actinomorphic and zygomorphic flower, and the floral formula, which is important, different symbols for zygomorphic, actinomorphic, and the whole floral formula is important. The different positions of ovary, hypogynous, perigynous, and epigynous. These are some important subparts which you have to cover, and the examples of these parts, and different parts of the flower, estivation, which is mode of arrangement of sepals and petals, few definitions. In this chapter mostly you have to remember the examples of each part, so the more you revise, the more you will remember. Then comes the fruit part, which includes epicarp, pericarp, endocarp, and different types of fruit, simple fruit, aggregate fruit, compound fruit. So these are the things which we have to see. Then comes the seed, which includes monocot, dicot. So different examples of seed and the part of the seed: testa, tegmen, micropyle, radicle, aileron layer, coleoptile and coelorhiza. These are the terms which you have to remember. Then description of few family is given, like Fabaceae and its floral formula, which you can remember, which is important. Brassicaceae is given in our textbook. Solanaceae is given, and Liliaceae. These are a few which is sufficient enough for your level to understand and write the floral formula. The more you go through the textbook, the more you will remember the examples. So the next part includes the anatomy of the flowering plant. So in anatomy you have to remember the study of tissues of plants, like the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So different types of meristematic tissue and permanent tissue, the examples of which will benefit you. So there are primary meristem, secondary meristem or lateral meristem. Then there is apical meristem, lateral. Both apical and intercalary together called primary meristem. These are few concepts which you have to know. The examples and the permanent tissue, which forms the complex tissue. So parenchyma, first the simple permanent tissue, then comes the complex permanent tissue. So parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. These are better given in the state textbook. So refer state textbook for its examples and better understanding. These are simple permanent tissue. Then comes complex permanent tissue. It includes xylem and phloem. So examples of different types. The xylem is further classified into tracheids, xylem fibers, xylem phloenchyma, metaxylem, companion cells which are present in phloem, protoxylem, protophlloem, metaphlloem and phloem fibers. The tissue system So the next part is of strategies in food production. These are a small chapters, but various questions have been asked in the past years from this chapter. This includes animal husbandry, plant breeding, tissue culture. So first we'll see animal husbandry, which means rearing and rearing of animals. So it includes dairy, poultry. See, this part is given best in your 12th standard state textbook. Different types of hen, turkey, geese and their examples, dairy and their byproducts, different types of cows, buffaloes and their examples, the hybrid varieties, the Indian varieties, and then there is inbreeding, outbreeding, outcrossing, interspecific hybridization. So these are the parts which you have to check upon. There is artificial insemination, Moet technique, multiple ovule embryo transfer, in which FSH hormone is important. Then there is beekeeping, which is known as apiculture. Different types of bees, Apis dorsata, Apis florae, Apis indica, which one is little bee, wild bee, rock bee are important. Then fisheries. Fishery, the main part is the byproducts of the fishery which we get, and the saltwater fish examples, freshwater fish, saltwater, which includes marine fishes and their examples. After this comes the plant breeding technique, the green revolution. It was given by Dr. Norman Borlaug. And the white revolution, the year in which green and white revolution was given. The cross hybrid selection technique of the plants, wheat and rice increased from 11 million tons to 75 million tons in production of wheat, and 35 to 89.5 rice production. Semi-DOF varieties of wheat and rice, and sugarcane varieties, millets, plant breeding and the disease resistant, fungi resistance disease, bacteria resistance, black rot of crucifers, fungi resistance is brown rust of wheat, and virus resistance, tobacco mosaic virus, turnip mosaic virus. Methods of disease resistance. Then there is mutation technique, the process by which genetic variations are created. There is mutation breeding seen in mung beans, resistance to yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew, resistance to yellow mosaic virus in bhindi, the wild species, and resulted from a new variety which is known as Parbhani Kranti. Transfer of resistance genes is achieved by sexual hybridization between the target and the source plant. Plant breeding resistance to insects like Brassica, resistance to aphids. Flat beans, resistance to jassids. Okra, which is bhindi variety, like Pusa Savni and Pusa A4, which are resistant to food, shoot and food borers. So variety names are important. Brassica is Pusa Gaurav, flat beans are Pusa Sem2 and Pusa Sem3, and their resistance to which varieties are important. Then the concept of single cell proteins, like species of Spirogyra, Chlorella, Methallophilus and Methallotropas are used. which are directly used as a protein supplement. Spirulina is a microbe which is grown easily and taken up. The tissue culture technique, explant totipotency, meristem, somatic hybridization. These are the some words whose definition you should know. Microbes in human welfare is also a small chapter. You will study the microbes in industrial product in sewage, biocontrol and biogas production. So microbes in a household is used like Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is used in puffed idlis, which is also known as baker's yeast. Then Swiss cheese are due to Propionibacterium shermani. The Roquefort cheese are ripened by growing specific fungi on them, which are flavored cheese. Then there is industrial process. Fermenters are used in large scale for making bread and ethanol. Then antibiotics use. Alexander Fleming worked on Staphylococcus staph bacteria, produced antibiotic for. Accidentally he discovered Penicillium notatum. Then various scientists came and discovered various antibiotics till now. Then for chemical enzymes and bioactive molecules are used like Aspergillus niger of citric acid, Acetobacter aceti of acetic acid, Clostridium butylicum of butyric acid, and Lactobacillus of lactic acid. Yeast is used as commercial production of ethanol. Then bottled juice are clarified by the use of pectinase. Streptokinase is used produced from bacterium Streptococcus, modified for genetic engineering as a clot buster. Streptokinase is used as enzyme for clot buster. Then there is cyclosporin A is a bioactive molecule used as immunosuppressive agent, organ transplant patient. Then there is the use of fungi Trichoderma polysporum. Statins are produced by yeast Monascus purpureus. Then there is microbes in sewage treatment plant. There are three processes: primary treatment, secondary treatment and tertiary. Primary is an anaerobic process where effluents are passed from primary to secondary process. Secondary is aerobic, mixing, agitating mechanically, biological oxygen demand. Then the third is anaerobic process. Anaerobic bacteria Methanococcus is used hydrogen sulfide, methane and carbon dioxide are the gas produced. These gas from biogas can be used as source. Then there is biogas production. Industrial Agriculture Research Institute and Khardian Village Center have developed for biogas production. There are biocontrol agents have been used, which are red and black markings. For dragonflies are useful to get rid of aphids and mosquitoes. Bt cotton, which is Bacillus thuringiensis, which has tDNA Bt crop gene. There is fungi mycorrhiza relationship. Vascular mycorrhizae is used. So here you can, for nitrogen fixation, ectomycorrhizae and endomycorrhizae are two types. This part you should refer from state textbooks. So in this particular video we are going to see about chapter ecosystem. So ecosystem may be visualized as functional unit of nature where living organisms interact among themselves So there are different definitions which are mostly asked for ecosystem. So forest, grassland and desert are some example of terrestrial ecosystem. Then there is aquatic ecosystem where marine life habitat. An aquarium and crop field may be considered as man-made ecosystem. So crop field and aquarium are man-made ecosystem. So there are different levels or cycles that are created for energy flow. So ecosystem, the structure and functions, interaction between biotic and abiotic component result in physical and structure characteristics. So there are stratification, species occupying vertical distribution, and there is zonation. These two terms which you have to know. This is horizontal distribution and stratification is vertical distribution. Then there are productivity, primary production, secondary production or gross productivity, net primary productivity, which is gross primary productivity minus R. So primary production is brought by photosynthesis, that is our autotrophs. Then secondary productivity, the rate of biomass production is productivity, and R is respiratory loss. Then there is decomposition, where decomposers break complex organic product into simple one, like carbon dioxide, water and nutrients. The dead plant remains as leaves, bark, rock, trees. Dead remains may constitute of detritus. So there are various processes of decomposition which may be fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humification and mineralization. This decomposition is brought about by detrivores. Detrivores are earthworms which break down detritus into small particles by fragmentation. By the process of leaching, water soluble inorganic nutrients may go down into soil horizon and get precipitated. Bacterial and fungal enzymes degrade detritus, which is catabolism. So enzymes come into place in catabolism. And humification and mineralization occur in decomposition in the soil. Humification leads to accumulation of dark colored amorphous substance, which is humus. And when the humus is formed, degraded of by microbes, release into the inorganic nutrients occur by the process of mineralization. So this is all about decomposition. Then there is energy flow, deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem. Sun is the only source of energy. Photosynthetically active radiation, which is 50%, of which simple organic plant capture 2 to 10%, with small amount of energy sustained in the living world, and the 10% are further passed from producers to consumers, primary, secondary and tertiary consumers. So examples of primary consumer are plants which are first trophic level, like phytoplanktons. Primary consumer, these are primary producers. Primary consumers, which are second trophic level, or herbivores, which includes zooplanktons, grasshoppers and cow. Then comes secondary consumers, which include third trophic level or carnivores, which are birds, fish, and wolf. Tertiary consumer or fourth trophic level or top trophic level, which are top carnivores, which includes man, lion, and peacock. Each trophic level has certain mass of living material at a particular time, which is called standing crop. The standing crop is measured in mass of living organisms or the number of unit area. There are ecological pyramids, pyramid of energy, number, and ecosystem. So the inverted pyramid is pyramid of biomass of standing crop of phytoplanktons, supports large number of standing crops. So the aquatic ecosystem of biomass is of inverted pyramid. Rest all other pyramid are of inverted. Pyramid of energy is always upright in position. Then there is ecological succession. There are different types of communities. Pioneer community, which comes into existence first, and the last one is climax community. Gradual and fairly predictable change in the species composition is given area is ecological successions. So the area no living organism existed as bare rock forms the primary succession, and later on which is formed as secondary successions. Successions are of two types: hierarch succession and xerarch succession. Hierarch is in wet areas for hydric and mesic condition, and xerarch from xeric to mesic condition seen in dry areas. There are nutrient cycles, carbon cycle, and phosphorus cycle in ecosystem.